Welcome to our workshop number 2, where we will be covering social justice literacy, human rights. Within the CLAM model literacies, the social justice category, and specifically the human rights sample literacy, will be our focus for this workshop. The ultimate end goal of this workshop is to promote positive social change by incorporating ways to better understand the sample literacies within the CLAM model. By understanding the sample literacy, human rights, we will provide ways for members to incorporate the information from this workshop and apply it to their organization. Organizations and its members will be able to function more efficiently and effectively from within. Robinson states, "The result of this development is in the practical literacy skills that can lead to informed decisions, behaviors, and actions that ultimately have implications for advancing positive social change." This workshop will provide organizations with a structured approach and help them integrate human rights literacy within organizational practices, guiding participants to use this knowledge to drive inclusivity and social responsibility. Using a mix of theoretical insights, real-world applications, and interactive activities, participants will be able to learn and apply these skills they learn throughout this workshop to their team and organization. By the end of this, participants will have gained insights into integrating human rights into their daily practices and promoting positive social change.
Critical literacy is instrumental in promoting positive social change. In the realm of adult education, the critical literacies encourage the learner to move beyond acquired knowledge and question what is learned, and to consider the perspective of others. During this workshop, we will discuss social justice literacy, specifically focusing on human rights. The purpose of this workshop is to discuss the significance of human rights in adult education, to promote understanding of the social justice literacy, specifically focusing on human rights, and encourage the presence of human rights in adult education. Participants of this workshop will understand the benefits of human rights. They will analyze the impact of human rights on adult education. They will understand the importance of advocating for human rights, evaluate the benefits of conflict resolution when human rights are violated, and understand the impact of human rights on positive social change. Human rights is defined as the basic rights and freedom of all humans. It includes the right to life, liberty, freedom of thought, expression, and equality before the law. There are many theories associated with human rights. Some of these discussed in this workshop will include the theory of natural rights, the theory of social rights, the theory of legal rights, the theory of historical rights, and the theory of economic rights. Sources used to prepare for this workshop include the United Nations, where we looked at the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner in Human Rights, where we looked at international human rights, World Food Program, and Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
The proposed context for the social justice literacies, more specifically the human rights literacy, can start by looking at what is happening in our world today, in our society today, the different issues that we see, such as the global food crisis, racial discrimination, gender discrimination, etc. Anything that we see happening that should be addressed and that people should learn about so that we can foster an environment of acceptance and tolerance and a willingness to help others when they need our help. Another context would be issues within the workplace that happen or within a company that need to be addressed. So if any of those things like racial discrimination, gender discrimination, anything like that, if that is happening within the actual workplace, those should also be addressed. And would be beneficial to have a workshop so that everyone can learn what is acceptable. So, moving on, another proposed context would be the interactions that a company may have with international companies. So, you would need to have a workshop about these things to understand different societal expectations and kind of create a middle ground that encourages being respectful towards people of all other cultures and different things like that. So, there is nothing offensive, nothing that can kind of break off business ties with people from other countries and things like that. Another context is that the human rights, the different standards, these are the minimum of how somebody should act in a workplace. This is the minimum standard for behavior. So by recognizing that, it would be good to have a workshop, especially when there are new hires, like a new hire orientation, or just an annual refresher training for, returning employees and things like that, so that it is always in the back of their mind of how they should behave and treat others.
All right, for this portion of the presentation, I will be covering the activities that we are recommending for an organization to complete as it relates to creating awareness on human rights. So as you see, step one, create awareness. We can't assume that everybody knows what human rights is and what that means and how they can be an advocate across multiple channels here. So we are recommending an HR monthly huddle or a meeting. This could be one that's already in place and that we can potentially leverage some time to go over and educate our current staff on how to first understand and educate themselves. This would be done by partnering with an ERG. So over the past, decades, several years, there has been more awareness put on the importance of culture and DE&I within an organization. And a lot of organizations have developed these employee resource groups for, African Americans, for women's rights, for, any minority as well as disabilities, right? To help create awareness and also to give back, right? So we are recommending that first partner with the experts. Get that information if it's, a volunteer event that they might be hosting. Allow other members of your organization to help volunteer, right? Within the next slide, so step two, let's go to the next slide here. All right, so step two, building relationships. So first I'm gonna, I wanna read this quote. So these activities create connections and understanding between people from different backgrounds, breaking down barriers. That's what's so important as you become an advocate for human rights, regardless of what the topic may be. It's understanding that we are all unique and we all come from potentially a different background. Right? You may have some similarities with someone, but we are all snowflakes. We are all unique. And how do we break down barriers and become more one, especially within an organization? So some of the activities, right, that we are recommending is, as I mentioned earlier, volunteer partnerships. And we are recommending that this be done as much locally as possible. Nationwide is wonderful, but the more that we can get involved in our community and help support our community, the better. And we're recommending that this be done on those human rights issues, right? So, for example, there could be a African American wellness mail walk. I know that's a popular one here in Columbus, Ohio. That you could recommend your employees get involved in to help support and become an ally, right? In addition to that, I thought this was a very unique one with human rights art displayed and celebrated on the company portal. So we know a lot of organizations, they are going back in office and some are staying home. So it's a great combination to be able to showcase some human rights art. And if you haven't looked into it, it's a great way to get your employees involved. And I've also seen several organizations actually utilize their employees to help with that showcase. So there's just lots of talent out there. So this is a great way to educate and also get your employees involved. And as I mentioned, you can do this in the building, and you can do it virtually if you have a company portal. Another activity that we are recommending is guest speakers, right? So back to, creating awareness, we talked about leveraging internal talent, but is there a possibility to also leverage external talent, right? And the experts out there who are or have been allies, who have worked in this line of work for years and can provide not only the education and awareness, but also ways to continue to be a great organization and help support your employees, as well as drive that mission of equality, right? So this is a great way, like I mentioned, to use potentially internal staff, but also to look externally to see what you can do to help educate your group as well. And then we'll go to the last step. All right, and the last step is step 3, maintain an inclusive culture. So you've done all of this work, and the work is continuing, right? This isn't a one-stop shop where you can just do a seminar on it and, build some education, some awareness, and then drop it. This is ever changing, and something that your employees truly value. So a way that we're recommending to maintain that inclusive environment is through a survey, right? But we have to be strategic in what we're surveying on. What we're recommending here is the Gardner Inclusion Index survey. So there are only 7 questions, but these 7 questions are based off of thousands of surveys put out there to identify what is the right culture, right? What it within an organization, and how to maintain that so everybody feels included and has a voice, and there's trust built within that organization. So like I mentioned, there's only 7 questions. The link in this presentation does take you directly to the Harvard study through Gardner. But the first one is fair treatment, integrating differences, decision making, psychological safety, such a great topic there. As I mentioned, trust, belonging, and diversity. Through these 7 questions, you are able to gauge over time how the culture of your organization is doing as it relates to human rights, education with DE&I efforts. So, it gives a lot of data, not just on this topic, but overall the culture of your organization. There are so many activities. I only mentioned 3 in here, but there are so many activities that can be done to help create that awareness, to build those lasting relationships and maintain that inclusive culture. We hope that this is something that every organization will start to implement and continue to embrace.
Hi, my name is Ashley McLean, and I'm going to go over our evaluation plan for the training of this workshop. The purpose of this evaluation plan would be to ensure that all adults that attended the workshop left with a gained knowledge of what human rights is and how it can benefit them. They will also need to have the knowledge to know that others have rights as well, so they can be cautious in their own decision making. The evaluation would consist of a pre and post questionnaire that will ask the adults different scenarios on how they would handle different situations. They will get a questionnaire before the workshop begins and another at the end of the workshop. This will allow both the trainer and the adults to see how their perspectives change after attending this workshop. The evaluation would conclude with a survey that will ask for feedback on ways the participant feels the workshop helped and ways they feel the workshop could improve. At the end of the workshop, the trainers would compile the questionnaires and the surveys from the participants. This is going to allow the trainers to see if the workshop was successful at changing the participants' perspectives and seeing if they actually have helpful guides on human rights. The survey would also allow the trainers to be able to approach different situations in the future to help improve this workshop. In conclusion, this workshop is designed to bring awareness to human rights and promote a more positive social change to everyone that attends the workshop. It's going to provide ways for attendees to be able to add the CLAM model to their professional and daily lives. The interactive activities will allow those that attend this workshop the opportunity to challenge themselves to learn new ways to navigate through societal structures and work towards a more equitable culture.